Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Sinikka Waugh, and we are here for the Even Better podcast. This is part of Your Clear Next Step and our ongoing mission to help us all have even better work days so that together we can co-create better communities. I am delighted to welcome back to our show Anne Wright, my dear friend. Anne, thank you so much for coming back today.
Sinikka, thanks for having me. I love our conversation, so I'm super excited to be here again.
It's always such a joy to spend time with you. And to our listeners, if this is the first time that you're hearing Anne Wright and you're like, welcome back, what do you mean? Then stop what you're doing right now. Pause this recording and go back through our podcast episodes. Go back to the list. Good heavens, there are 81 that you can choose from, but several of those 81 that you can choose from will feature Anne Wright and the various topics that we've talked about along the way, usually having something to do with communication or listening or volunteerism. Anne and I have touched on a lot of topics over these last couple of years. It has been such a joy to spend time with her. She is one of the coaches that serves on behalf of Your Clear Next Step, although she has her own practice as well, and is an ICF Credentialed Coach. She specializes in leadership and team coaching. I know her as someone who leaves things and people better than she found them. I know that she has a passion for supporting people in developing their skills so they too can then achieve their goals in life. So we are going to just get right into it today. We're going to be talking about the 5 C's of coaching. And tell us a little bit about coaching, though. Let's define coaching. What is coaching and what isn't coaching?
Well, what coaching is not, it's not counseling, it's not consulting, it is not mentoring, and it is certainly not anybody telling you what to do. What coaching is partnering with a client and a coach to talk about a way to move forward. It's talking about what do you want, where do you want to be, and what are you willing to do to get there. That's really what it is. It's coaching in a nutshell. It's a partnership about moving forward and designing and developing and creating what you want in the future. It's safe, it's confidential, and it can address a plethora of things. Relationship, promotion, all types of coaches. So it's a wealth. I know with change makers, we really are focused, on making workplaces or workdays better. And so a lot of it has to do with what's going on in the workplace. And yet there's so many things that are interdependent, workplace, professional. So it really is a combination, but bottom line, it's partnership.
So there were a couple of years in there, maybe sadly more than a couple. I'm sure you've experienced this as well as a credentialed coach, where coaching got kind of a bad rap, and people would look at someone getting coaching and wrinkle up their nose like, oh, you've gotten a coach. Oh, has it come to that? Like, oh no, it's remedial or something punitive almost.
We talk about that, and you're right. It did kind of get a bad rap. And yet think about all the people, well, for the sports teams, we have coaches, we have head coaches, we have assistant coaches, we have quarterback coaches, we have offensive coaches. And it's not because anything is wrong. It's because we all want to continue to develop. I have a coach. One of my goals right now is to finish a book that I've been thinking about. So I hired a book coach. So this person is trained in books, and it's not because I'm doing anything wrong. It's I'm learning and working to be even better, the best version of myself. So people hire coaches usually, a lot of times when things are going well, it's how to make them even better or to create, and kind of figure out that roadmap and which path you want to take. So that's really, it's about enhancement and elevating.
And you alluded to Changemakers a little bit, and you've been part of our Changemakers rollout. Changemakers is the new product at Your Clear Next Step that launched in the early part of 2023. And coaching is featured in Changemakers in a couple of different ways. How have you seen it play out so far?
Oh, people are learning how to ask questions. And I know as a coach, and a lot of the coaches, we ask a lot of questions about what they want out of their workplace. How can they not only support themselves, and yet a lot of our clients are working hard to create an entire coaching culture within their organization. So not only are they learning skills, they're able to take the skills they're learning and share it with people with whom they work.
So let's get into these 5 C's of coaching you brought to us today. The first one is clarity. And I have to tell you, I'm a little bit biased towards clarity, given the name of your Clear Next Step and all, where we believe that clarity comes before action. But let's talk about clarity in coaching. So clarity, why is that the first of the 5 C's of coaching? What do you mean by clarity?
I think it's important to figure out what is it that is important to you. Whether it's life coaching, leadership coaching, health coaching, career coaching, relationship coaching, what is important to you? I'm reminded of, I've probably said this before, I'm reminded of Alice in Wonderland when she falls down the rabbit hole and she's zipping along, all over the place in Wonderland. And she gets to a fork in the road and she says, "Oh my gosh, which way do I go?" And the wise Cheshire Cat, looking down from her or to her from the tree, says, "Well, Alice, where are you going?" And she said, "I really don't much know." And he said, "Then it doesn't really matter which path you take." And I remember that because you do have to have an idea. It's not that you can't change paths, yet are you clear what's important and where do you want to end up? Kind of like Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. Where am I going? And it's important to be clear what's important and where do I want to end up in the end? What goals? That's what I mean by clarity. And a lot of coaches will ask you questions and do some activities with you to figure out what's important. And that changes, by the way, your priorities change. My priorities have changed in my seasons of life.
For sure.
My early 20s, my career, that was it. And, when I became a mom, that was my priority. And you just adjust. And I think our clients, by utilizing coaching and including coaching, it just supports them in being really clear on, oh yeah, this is important, or this wasn't really as important as I thought it was.
So let's get to number 2. We're talking about the 5 C's of coaching. The second one was confidence. Ooh, let's go there. What does confidence mean? How does it relate to coaching?
Confidence, I find that a lot of people in some areas of their life, they're really confident. They've got it. They know they feel good about it because they're comfortable with it and they're knowledgeable. It's safe. They've just done it before. And yet in some areas, if it's a new area, I'll use the book, for example. I have ideas and yet I'm not that confident in moving forward because I've never done it before. I'm confident that I can do it. I'm just not sure how to get there. And so by talking through things, I learn more and I'm more confident to actually move towards that goal of actually finishing the book, going to an editor and getting it published. And like in the workplace, if you're familiar with something and you have a lot of knowledge and you've done it, you got this. Maybe there's something new, a new process. Maybe you've never conducted a performance review. Maybe you're a new supervisor and you're figuring out, how do I manage my own activities and supporting the people that report to me that I'm working to develop? So we talk about confidence and what can people do to gain more confidence in whatever it is they're working towards, the steps they can take.
And if we go back to your definition earlier about what coaching is and that partnership, sometimes that the idea of not doing something alone, right? If it's a partnership, if I've got someone to bounce ideas off, if I've got someone to help me formulate my thoughts, if I've got someone to, I don't know, just not be alone in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and even the majority of the time, the client has the solution. It's just that sometimes people don't know they have the answers yet. And by talking through things and asking questions, and then really using 2 ears, my 2 ears and my 1 mouth, I try to close it more often and open the 2, by really listening to our clients and to people. It's amazing what they realize they know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to get us to a nice segue. I think that whole listening gets us to the third one, which is collaborate. So if you're just joining in and you're just listening, and now you're getting in partway here to a conversation we're having with Ann Wright on the 5 C's of coaching. We're talking about the 5 C's of coaching. We started with clarity, we moved to confidence, and now we're talking about collaborate. So unpack that for us a little bit. How does collaborating play out in coaching?
In coaching, you're collaborating with a person. And there's actually a couple different areas of coaching. Collaboration, individual coaching. The two people, the coach and the client, are collaborating with each other as partners. Again, it's about, the whole agenda is client driven. However, you get to partner and collaborate with somebody who will listen to you, unbiased opinion. They have a vested interest, but what their interest is not in a particular outcome. It's in, what does the client want? So you get to you collaborate together with two people. In group coaching, you're collaborating with a group of people. And in group coaching, it's when each person has the opportunity to be coached. And some people will be like, well, how does that benefit me? By listening to each person's scenario and what they learn and gain from coaching, you also gain from it. And then in team coaching, the team collaborates with the coach, but the team is one entity. They're not being coached as individuals. It's asking, what's your team's purpose? What could your team do? What does your team do that nobody else can? So you're collaborating in a different way, and yet you're not alone. It's about working it through with your village, whether it's a 2-person village or 4 to 6 people in the village. You're collaborating, you're working with somebody, some other person. And I don't know about you, but 2 heads are always better than 1.
For sure. For sure. I love that African proverb. If you want to run far, run together, right? If you want to run fast, run alone, but if you want to run far, run together. We can get so much further in life when we're collaborating, when we're running together. So I want to pause here for a second, because I think this is really interesting. I've seen you collaborate, and many of the things that we do here at Your Clear Next Step, because of the nature of the work that we're doing, we sometimes are deployed as coaches or as trainers or as facilitators solo. Sometimes it's just us working with the client, and sometimes it's a one-on-one situation. And so in that, as you started to allude to that, we're partnering, but we're still partnering with that individual, with that client. So I'm doing career coaching with an individual, or I'm doing project management coaching with an individual project manager, or a specific situational coaching with an individual. And it's still collaboration, because we're working one-on-one with that person. And like you said, it's so cool, because I am unbiased in the topic, but I'm totally biased because I want their success. Like, I just want them to succeed. I want them to have the best possible experience, and I want the best outcome for them. Okay, but then we also do these other situations where you and I might collaborate together to serve a client. You talked about team coaching, and you talked about group coaching, and this whole idea of sometimes coaches collaborate. And I've seen you collaborate with some of our other facilitators and some of our other coaches together. So coaching, even in the Changemakers program, sometimes our facilitators collaborate to create the curriculum. Sometimes our coaches collaborate to deliver the solution. Wow, the collaboration doesn't, if you're working with a coach, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're only working with one coach, does it?
Not necessarily. It really all depends on, when I say what is determined. And like you said, I've worked with a couple other coaches with Your Clear Next Step. One, she and I are working on the curriculum for the coaching, for some of the coaching module. And another coach, she and I are coaching a team. And so you have the benefit of different experiences, but both coaches working together. And so, like you said, yes, you might be working with a coach, 2 coaches at the same time with a team. And then one coach may take the lead and work with maybe the supervisor. So yes, you can work with one coach or maybe even 2 coaches, depending upon what you decide is important.
Yeah. I think one of the, and going back to your sports analogy, one of the things that we want to make sure of when we do that, and my point of caution that I would offer to a listener who's working with coaches somewhere is that if you're going to work with multiple coaches, that idea of collaboration becomes then really important. So if you're working with a life coach, perhaps, or a fitness coach or a nutritionist, maybe you're working with a nutritionist and an exercise coach, collaboration becomes really important. Getting two different messages from two different people who care about your health could get really confusing. If you're working with a life coach and a career coach, or if you're working with a career coach and a professional coach in your business, those different kinds of messages could wind up confusing. If you're working with coaches who are collaborating together, you're going to make sure that those coaches are collaborating for your best interest.
That's Sinikka, you bring up a great point. Hopefully, if you're working with two coaches, they are talking together and
Right.
are on the same page as well as far as what's best for the client. And that's why in a particular situation right now, one coach takes the lead. It doesn't mean we're not equal, because we are. It's just that one says, all right, what do you think about this, this, or this? And then everybody has, input. The other thing is, if a person is trying to figure out what coach do I, want to work with, but I'm only going to work with one coach, I really encourage people, if they're hiring somebody on their own, ask the coaches, interview, I shouldn't say maybe interview, but it's kind of like an interview. Ask 2 or 3 coaches for a complimentary coaching call. And basically what that is, it's a coaching session. It's no charge. And I encourage clients that come to me, have a couple of calls, because all coaches are different. I'm not the right coach for everyone, and not everybody is the right client for me. And I'm okay with that. My bottom line is I want what's best for the client. And if I think there's somebody out there that has a different style, I will suggest them. Just like I've had people refer clients to me. They're like, Ann, I think your style and this person's style meshes. Or one person focuses more heavily on, say, health or relationships, and maybe one focuses on career or leadership development. It's not that the majority of coaches, they can coach, because coaching skills are very similar, and yet people are different. So I'd ask for complimentary calls, but ask the coaches how they're going to work together.
Yep.
I know that the coach and I that are working together now, we talk absolutely before each coaching session. And of equal importance to me, we do a debrief. What went well? What could we do differently, better? Or what could we do more of the next time? Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we'll move on to number 4. We're talking with Ann Wright, the 4 C's of coaching. We're on to number 4, choices. Choices. Talk to us about that.
Choices. Bottom line, you have choices. And I know I just talked about coaches, and yet what's really important when you're coaching or being coached, you have choices. It's not that the coach is going to give you choice, because that's not what I mean. Because remember, you have the solution as the client. You're going to get lots of questions. By talking it through, you're going to come up with, the client is going to come up with your own choices. And isn't that fun? I mean, like I said, who likes to have just one choice? You like to have, it's almost like a buffet. So now I've come up with all these choices, and I get to decide as the client, I get to decide what I'm going to do based on all the choices I've actually come up with.
Lovely. So not just choices going into the coaching program, but when I'm involved in coaching, I get choices of my path forward. So I got clarity in your first topic there, clarity about which path I'm going down. But even within this path, there are choices about maybe I've selected path A, but it could be a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit, a little bit faster, a little bit slower, a hop or a skip or a jump from here to there. Right? I have these choices, and how am I going to implement these things that I'm going to do? I have these choices. Am I going to take action? Am I not going to take action?
I was going to say, funny you should say that. But that is going to lead us exactly into number 5.
Ooh, all right, let's go there.
If that's okay with you.
Yep.
There's all these choices. And some people will probably say, or you might, as you're listening, you might think, oh my gosh, is she going to give me homework? No. I, as a coach, am not going to give you homework. However, actions do move us forward. What I will do as a coach is ask you, okay, here's some of the way that you want in clarity. Here's some of the choices, the things that you can do. Moving into commitment, what are you willing and what are you able to commit to? It's what you want to do. What are you willing to commit to? And I might ask you, are you willing to commit to finishing a draft? Are you willing to commit to talking to your supervisor? Are you willing to commit to finishing your accreditation or certificate? The beauty of coaching, you get to say yes or no. And I'm also a huge advocate of when. You may say, yes, I'm going to do this. By when do you want to do it? When do you want to commit to talking to your supervisor? Or when will you commit to finishing whatever it is? You again get to say when. I ask the questions, you get to make the decisions and make the self-commitments that are important to you based upon what you want to do.
It's interesting that you would choose for the 5 C's of coaching, that last one, that fifth word is commitment. That's a big, strong word, commitment. And to use it in a sentence like that, are you willing to commit? Like, that's not, are you willing to do this? Are you willing to call someone? Sure, I'm willing to call. Are you willing to commit to call? That's a, I mean, do they teach you that in coaching school?
Yes, they talked about self-commitments. Yes, they did. They talk about self-commitments. I hadn't thought about it for a long time because on the upside, it's so natural for me to ask people, so are you willing to commit to that?
Yeah.
But you're right, it is different to quote commit.
That's a big word. Yeah.
It is.
Are you willing to commit to that? And I love that action, adding that when. I've long said, as a career project manager, I've long said that action items without due dates and owners are not action items at all. They're pipe dreams. So by when are you going to do that? Right? By when?
Yeah. My coach asks me that all the time. So by when are you going to get that finished? And it's amazing when you know you're going back to a call. Believe me, there's no judgment and life happens. And I've had to go back sometimes and said, you know what? Life happens. We had a major life event this spring that it just happens. However, it does inspire me to make forward progress or to go, I'm getting this finished by the time I'm going to meet with them next because I'm going to go back and we're going to celebrate. Woohoo! I've made progress.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So can you give me any nugget, any story, any example of a high point for you of when someone shared with you that, yes, they were willing to commit to maybe, you know, a nugget, of course, protecting names and details, but where someone committed to you and you saw that, yeah, this was the result of coaching. They committed to something and they took it forward and you were able to see that they had that clarity and they had grown that confidence and you'd collaborated with them and they made their own choices and they made a commitment and you saw growth in there. Do you have any nuggets, any stories you're able to share?
Yeah, I can think of several. One in particular comes to mind because I received an email a year ago, but a year after I had coached this person. And this person, my client, she indicated she was doing well in her career. She was close to retirement. She wanted to be a master gardener and had always wanted to take the classes. And I said, so when are you going to take them? She stopped and she said, I'm going to sign up for them within like the next couple months. Well, we coached and she talked about the master gardener. She had moved forward in a little bit in her career, had made some decisions when she was going to retire. A year later, I received an email and she said, Ann, I'm graduating tonight with my master gardener certification. And it was all her. And yet it was so, she said, and part of it is because you supported me in helping me become clear that this is really important to me. Help give me the confidence that, well, I can do that. I don't know what I'm waiting for. We talked, collaborated together and she had a choice. I mean, she could either take the class and be a master gardener or not. And by making the commitment, she committed and she let me know. I was truly as happy as she was. Okay, maybe an iota smaller because she was the one that did it, but I almost cried. I was so excited for her.
Oh,
yeah.
So neat.
Super excited for her. And her next goal is to write a children's book.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. I love
Cool.
it. Isn't that cool? Well, and I can't help but share. So very often when I talk about what we do here at Your Clear Next Step, I talk about we help people have even better work days so that we can co-create better communities, right? And sometimes I talk about, well, what do we do with our discretionary time? If we have a better work day, and then at the end of our better work day, we drive home safer and we do more fun things with our discretionary time. Like we plant community gardens, and maybe this master gardener now plants a beautiful community garden, right? Or helps contribute to others and counsel them as they plant gardens. I just,
Right.
oh, the co-creation of greatness there. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. And people may ask, what does that have to do with, like you said, it has everything to do with your workplace also, because she's happier personally. You could, like you said, you come to work happier, you go home happier. It all relates. And the C's are the same. The goal might be different, but they're the same. You're clear, become confident, collaborate, and you have choices. You can say yes or you can say no. And then you commit to either one.
Love it. Oh, thank you, Anne. Always a
Oh,
delight
you're
to spend
welcome.
time with you.
Thank you.
This is so fun. So this would not be the Even Better podcast if I did not ask my signature question. What is making you even better these days?
Working with people like you, Sinikka. Truly, that definitely helps my work days. And working on my book. It's been a dream for a long time, and it is making my work days better because I am carving out the time, that some of that discretionary time. I've said no to a couple things to say yes to this, and it's going to support me in helping other people as I move forward in my volunteer area. So honestly, it's finally working on my book. And it goes, you ask, well, thank you. You ask about what's helping me, quotes, and my quote for today that I brought today, because it directly relates to coaching and what we've been talking about. It's by Thoreau. It says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you've imagined. And because of coaching, I am living the life that I imagined. And I truly want that for everybody else. I want so badly for people to live the life that they want and they deserve, and to even be part of their journey to help them create it. Oh my gosh, that is just, I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Anne. And for our listeners, if you are just joining in, you are at the tail end, you got to rewind. You got to go back to the beginning because you just missed some really, really wonderful stuff. So we've been here with Anne Wright, and this is part of our ongoing series as part of specifically featuring some of our changemakers, coaches, and trainers. So if you would like to learn more about changemakers, there are ways you can do that. Check out Your Clear Next Step and get involved. This changemakers program is part of 15 years of research that I've been doing. And I continue to be convinced that the changemakers in this world are those who do three things. They put the good of the organization first. They make authentic human connection, and they treat change as a process, not an event. And if you think you can be a change maker, or you want to be a change maker, or you want to grow in that space, come to yourclearnextstep.com and click on any one of the change makers buttons there and learn more about how you can do that in your organization. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Sinikka.
Always a joy, and thanks for listening. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.